You're on your way to your first date. You've been looking forward to meeting this guy for as long as you've been chatting. You've been texting back and forth, and the time has finally come to meet him in person. But when you finally meet up, the conversation is kind of weird. Maybe the vibe is off and you are just seeing some red flags that make you feel nervous about where this is going. It can sometimes be hard to notice when people are waving red flags, or they can be trying to make excuses for someone. Either way, it's important to be aware of what's happening in the situation. Red flags can sometimes be detected on the first date. Don't get so eager for a relationship that you ignore warning signs. Here are 6 red flags that should not be ignored on a first date. Number 1. He talks about his ex. This is your first date with him. You're not a double date with his ex. He should be looking to see if he wants a future with you, not comparing you to her. If he can't get his mind off of his ex long enough to not bring her up during your date, I see that as a bad sign. One time a guy I went on a date with mentioned his ex-wife and referred to her as if she was still his wife, even though she had gone on to marry someone else. But he kept telling me that he was over her. It's not okay when someone cries while talking about their ex, in my opinion. I ignored the red flags and continued to date him, but that was really the worst decision I made in my life. Generally, if someone starts mentioning their ex, it might be a sign that they are not over them. So just be careful, since it's not only weird but also an indication of how they feel. Please don't bring up your past relationships. The focus should be solely on us and what we can build together in the future. Number 2. He keeps looking at his phone. This is a red flag because it says that he is willing to allow technology to distract him more than the possibility of a relationship with you. Even if he's excited about getting to know you, there's no need for this interruption. It's not usually a good idea to bring work to the first date. If you do need to handle work matters, make sure it's already taken care of beforehand. The first date should be for getting to know one another, and interruptions can make that hard. You can give him a little more time if it happens again and he recognizes that he did something wrong. However, if he seems to care more about checking his phone than focusing on you, maybe it's time to end the date. Because if someone is already telling you with their actions that they are not a good fit for a relationship, then it may be wise to take them at their word. Number 3. He walks ahead of you. A true gentleman will let you walk in front of him, particularly if you're not in a romantic relationship. Walking ahead of a woman while holding her hand is a bit different than walking ahead of a woman who you are not holding hands with. This is a first date red flag because it just shows that they are rude and inconsiderate. I have dated a few guys who would walk ahead of me. Each one was a narcissist too. One of them walked in front of me so many times that someone from our apartment complex took notice. It was another guy our age who took notice, and he posed the question to my boyfriend at the time. He told my boyfriend that if he was dating me, he would be walking beside me. I can understand that it may not be so obvious to you when a guy likes you. It could also be possible that he is trying to hide his feelings from you because he doesn't want to scare you off. But guys who really like a girl show it in different ways. Don't let him fool you by not walking with you when you're together. Number 4. He doesn't ask you questions about yourself. Humans are social beings, and we all have a need to be heard. The vast majority of people enjoy talking about themselves and what they do. It is, after all, a form of flattery to be told how fascinating you are. These red flags on first dates are things that other people have been warned about, and they usually turn out to be clear stumbling blocks for relationships. One day I realized that this guy I was in a relationship with never asked me questions about myself, even after we'd only been seeing each other for a few weeks. It's not like he didn't care, but I still found it odd. I believe that men who are really interested in you will ask you about yourself and try and get to know who you really are as a person. This way, if they're not asking, it might be a sign that he doesn't have any interest in you. Number 5. He is lustful. Men are undoubtedly drawn to looks, but the boundary is crossed when they start lusting instead of admiring. Be sure to always know where his look for you ends at marvel and starts with thirst. You don't want a man to be indiscriminate towards you, because a lustful man typically has one thing on his mind. It also applies to a guy who stares at every woman that passes by. If you are on your very first date and he can't even keep his eyes on you now, You shouldn't be too hopeful for him fixing his eye problem in the future. Number 6. Rude to waitstaff. These people always seem to be pretty awful to everyone they meet. Think of what they can do to the people closest to them. Surprisingly, I haven't dated anyone who was rude to waitstaff. However, I had a friend who was rude and gave poor tips anytime we went out to eat. Needless to say, I stopped going out for meals with him because I didn't want to be guilty by association. This is a pretty obvious red flag that most people have experienced one time or another. You might be hungry and need a server, but they're busy. That's not an excuse for being rude to them. They most likely aren't purposely ignoring you. They don't deserve to have rude comments made towards them. You should make it your mission to steer clear of potential dates who behave this way. Do you have some red flags that you've noticed on a first date? We want to hear from you. Share them in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe as well. Thank you for watching another video.